Welcome to Lucy Talks, a safe space to talk. And today I want to talk about my pregnancy experience. And I have my husband again.
Hello. It's good to be back.
So, of course, it all started with a missed period. And I was only 2 days late, which is normal. And I was like, you know what? Let me just, to be safe, I'm probably not. And I see the most faint line, but you could barely see it. And I remember, well, first off, we would take the test together, but he was working. So I called him and I said, hey, I want to take a test. I'm probably not pregnant, but just to be sure. He's like, okay, let's FaceTime. So we did. And I showed him, I was like, babe, I think I see something. And he was like, well, if you squint your eyes, you can probably see a line, but no, I don't think you're pregnant. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, am I? Am I not? And I remember texting my younger sister. I was like, hey, what is this? And she was like, you should just try it in the morning. I took the test in the morning, and that's what happened. So I was nervous and I went to work. And all of a sudden, of course, I felt hot, but it was summertime. So I was like, oh, this might be normal. And I see my coworker and I was like, hey, can you tell me what you see in this picture? Because I took a picture of the test. And she was like, to me, that looks like you're pregnant. And then she tells me, take off your necklace. I'm about to ask. Like energetically, I guess the gods or energy or Mother Earth, I don't know. And she took it off. She was like, is Lucy pregnant? And then it said yes. And then she was like, congratulations, you're pregnant. And I was like, and then she's like, wait. Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Okay. And then she asks the necklace, I guess, if it goes forward or sideways. And it said, oh, you're having a girl. Congratulations. Okay, I got to go to work. I was like, what is going on? And then I was like, oh my gosh, no. It's probably not. And I get upstairs to get my stuff ready to work and I eat my lunch right before I start working. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not normal. I don't eat my lunch right away. And I had already ate breakfast or a meal right before I left to work. Then I get to work and I eat again. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then I text Brandon. I was like, I'm hungry. And he was like, oh. And he's like, we'll get you some food when you come out of work. And I was like, okay. So then we go to Buffalo Wild Wings and I order these wings, obviously, and I eat them all. And I usually don't eat all of the wings. And I was like, man, I'm hungry today.
Remember the onion ring part of
Oh,
it?
yeah. What was that?
Because you always love to get onion rings at Buffalo Wild Wings. And at the location up here in Santa Clarita, at the time that we were going, they would always be out. Like it was kind of most of the time they were out. Sometimes they would have onion rings. So I remember we were eating the wings or ordering. And I said to myself, it's so dumb. I don't know why I said this, but I was like, if they have onion rings, you're pregnant. and so we were like, oh, do you have onion rings? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, okay, that's it. She's pregnant. That was like my version of the little necklace that goes back and forth. I
Yeah,
was like,
that's true, huh? That's true. And then we get home and we retake a test just to be sure. And clear as day, two lines, dark. And I was like, and then I was like, and he was like, babe, like with a big smile because he has a really beautiful big smile. It's like, babe, and he hugs me, and I was like shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Yeah.
and then, but well, we went to urgent care after that to
Yes.
like because we just because we're like, oh, I guess that's what we have to do now. We have to go to urgent care, and we remember we did take like 5 tests
We
to like that,
to be sure, because
right?
we had those CVS tests don't work. At least not for me, and it had told me a false positive months before this happened, and I was like, oh, I don't know. So I checked 5 times to make sure that it was, the
Yeah, and then we went to urgent care and told them everything that had happened, and they're like, okay, we're gonna give you a test, and they were like, "Why did you test 5 times?" And we're like, "Oh, 'cause we want to
It's
make
our
sure."
first time.
And they're like, "Okay." And so the nurse like gave you the test. You took it. She left for a couple minutes, came back, and was like, "You're pregnant."
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
And she's like, "Go to what did she say? Go to CVS and get a multivitamin or no, the prenatal." And start taking the prenatal vitamins. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's starting. I gotta. There's an errand I gotta run." Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was super exciting, and right away I made him drive to my mom's house. Was it my mom's house?
Yes.
And then your parents' house to let them know that we were pregnant. And I remember we went to your mom's house, and we told your brother to come back to the house, and his wife Erica was like, "Oh, I know they're pregnant because they're not gonna make us come back just like that. Either that or I don't know what she said. I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're pregnant." And she was like, "I knew it. I knew. Oh my gosh." It was so funny. And I know my family was super happy as well. But yeah, that was that. And then obviously the first trimester was horrible. I was very nauseous. I can smell shit from a mile away, and like literal stuff and fragrance, everything, just everything and anything. I made my husband to stop. I made him stop wearing deodorant.
Oh
And
yeah, Old Spice. No more Old Spice
no
for
more
that
Old
time.
Spice. It was disgusting. And what else? I was just very nauseous. It was horrible for at least about 4 months. It wasn't even 3 months. All day, every day. Weakness, just, and I was working hard like that. I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, as a massage therapist for those who don't know, so it was really
I
physical.
didn't say that, but yeah, it was a very physical job, and it was hard, but I was doing it. I was working hard, even though I was nauseous. Yeah, so the symptoms were the obvious: nauseous, tender breast, weakness, dizziness, tiredness, and I just felt hot. And I usually feel really cold even when it's summer, but when I was pregnant, I was hot. I mean, I was hot, but I was hot, like, yeah. And then the second trimester was easy peasy. I was able to eat again. The smells weren't as bad anymore. I wasn't feeling too weak, and I was starting to gain weight. So that's great. But my belly did start getting heavier. And by the third trimester, I was a melon waddling. I was like, waddle, wobble, dee, wobble, wobble, wobble. And I was still working. And then we got a scare, and we went to urgent care.
And that was New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
I remember it was New Year's Eve when we went down there
Oh, yeah.
to the urgent care in Panorama.
It was scary because I was working, and it was probably 2 months before I gave birth, or three.
Three.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 months before I gave birth. And by that time you get like those little contractions, and then they go away. Your belly gets hard. And so that's what was happening, but it was a little too much, and my back was hurting. And I was like, this is not normal. And so I go, and they check, and I think the lining of the baby was a little thinner, something like that, they said. So they're like, "Oh, you need to rest." And I believe I was also a high risk pregnancy because of previous health issues when I was a lot younger. When I was 16, I had some issues. And so they're like, "We need to watch you." So that was a little scare. And they're like, "You need to rest, and hopefully tomorrow it'll be less and it'll go back to normal." And so it did. And I took time off work, and I was resting. And by the way, my husband was a champ. He had me going to massages every other week or every week. I was going to the chiropractor. I was doing all of it. He literally pampered me. If I said like, "Hey babe, I'm like hungry" at 10 p.m., he'd go. I was always craving, and I know this might be nasty for some people, but I was craving at towards the end because cravings. They say if you are salty or sweet, that it's a boy or a girl, and I was craving a lot of meat in the beginning and salty stuff. And so my brother thought I was going to have a boy because apparently salt or salty things or salty foods is for boys and sweet things are for a girl. At least that's what I've heard. And so both of my brothers thought I was going to have a boy. And my sisters, I'm not so sure what they thought. I don't remember. They might have said boy as well, or girl. But I had a feeling it was going to be a girl. I remember when I was getting cravings that towards the end, I started getting cravings and I was like, can you take me to go get a McFlurry M&M? I was having it like every day. He was super, super good at going to get whatever I wanted. And I also was craving the spicy chicken from Jack in the Box. It was so good when I was pregnant. I haven't had those ever since, but when I was pregnant, those were the two things that were in my belly. 2 weeks before my due date, I wake up and I use the restroom and stuff, and it just won't stop going, if you know what I mean. And I was like, oh, I think it's time. I think it broke. It broke. And so I get up and then I call Brandon. I was like, Brandon, I think my water broke. My water broke. And he's like, okay, I'm going upstairs. Because he was downstairs in the office. And he rushes up, and then I call the hospital, and they're like, are you in any pain? I was like, no. And then I was like, can I shower before I get there? And then they're like, yeah, if you're not in any pain, you can definitely shower. So I showered, and then on our way, we were there, and I called my family. They're like, oh my gosh, are you having contractions? I was like, no, I'm not having anything. It's just, it's come, my water broke. That's it. And so I get to the hospital, and they were checking me and everything was fine, but I wasn't getting any contractions. So they gave me like a little pill to, I guess, open my cervix, and it wasn't working. So I started walking around. Once I started walking around, then I started getting contractions, and I was like, holy shit, it's coming. And so I was like, I want the epidural now. And so I was very verbal to the nurses, because they're like, okay, so what do you want? We want to make this as comfortable for you as we can. So I said, delay cord cutting, epidural. Well, epidural first, delay cord cutting. And that's pretty much it. I don't remember anything else, but they were very, very good at that. So once I started getting the pain, I said, I need that right away. Please be vocal. If you have to be vocal and you're pregnant, be vocal to the nurses, because sometimes they'll just do whatever they want. So you put your foot down, girl. So I got the epidural afterwards, and that was great. I didn't feel contractions afterwards till towards the end. I started feeling contractions on my back, though. I didn't feel anything in the front, just my back. The best way I can describe it is an elephant sitting on my back, or like stomping on my back. And they were coming very often. And I was like, oh my gosh. They're like, press the button. And like the medicine wasn't working. What is it? Is it fentanyl or something?
I don't
know. What is it? I don't know. Epidural.
Pain medicine, Vicodin. I don't know.
I don't know. Get that shit. Well, a lot of people will tell you, don't get it. Go all natural. I just want to say, do whatever you feel is best for you, for your body. I wanted to go that route because I didn't want to feel pain. I'm a little wuss when it comes to pain. So I knew I didn't want to feel it. I got the epidural. Best decision of my life. No, I did not get any after effects afterwards, or long-lasting after effects. The birthing experience was magical. After I felt the pain, I called the nurses. The medicine wasn't working, and they're like, "Oh, you're ready. Can you push?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And so I guess the adrenaline of knowing that she was arriving, the pain in my back stopped, and I was like, "Let's go." And they're like, "Push." And I started pushing and pushing, and they're like, "You're not doing it right." I was like, "Shut the fuck up." But you get all these emotions, you're like, I was a little sassy. It wasn't hurting whatsoever after that. Since from the moment they told me to push and the moment she was born, my daughter, it was less than an hour. So I did a really good job. Also, while I was pushing, they asked my husband, what did they ask you?
They gave me a task. Well, I asked them. I said, "How could I help Lucy, but stay out of your way?" That's what I asked the doctors. And they said, "You can hold her neck for her, hold her head, and like count and tell her to push when it's time to push." I said, "I could do that." And also ice chips. I was giving you ice chips out of a bucket for you to like chew in between pushing.
Yes, because they didn't let me have water. But because of the epidural, I guess they say you get nauseous. So they were giving me ice chips. And I was like, okay. By the way, I did eat before. Like once I got to the hospital and they connected me and everything, I was able to eat food. So I wasn't hungry when I was pushing, but I was thirsty. So the ice chips helped a lot. And I was like, "Ugh," and then he's like, "Do you want more ice chips?" I'm like, "Yes." And he would just like feed them to me while I was pushing. And he's like, "Babe, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job." I was like, "Thank you." And he was just amazing. Like you're the best husband ever through the whole support of when we found out, through the trimester and the birth. And I didn't even change the baby's diaper for a whole week. You took care of that. And I was like, wow, he's my forever. He's really my lover boy.
You were doing all the work. I was just getting you ice and whatever you needed and spicy chicken sandwiches from Jack in the Box.
Afterwards, she was born and she was healthy and she was like over 6 pounds. And we got to take her home like 2 days after, I believe. And it was just an amazing experience. Afterwards, I did go through a lot of emotions, which women don't talk about as much. And I do want to say that there are people out there to listen to you and hear you. And I didn't realize I had postpartum depression until I was 4 months after giving birth. And I went to the doctor and I was like, "I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm not sleeping. I'm sleep deprived. I'm always crying. Like, what's going on?" He was like, "You need some sleep. You need some time." And it's so hard because you're trying to feed your baby every 3 hours and making sure your husband's okay and making sure there's food and feeding the baby as well. And just like there were so many things. And I didn't realize that it was taking a toll on my body, my mental health. And I talked to the doctor and he said, you have this or whatever. And, at that time I had a doula helping me. And she was like, "Hey, I'll give you the name of these multivitamins I've been trying and they work amazing." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, let me try them." And I got them on Amazon. And within a week, right, I started feeling so much better, less depressed. And then it just got better and better each day. And it kind of, I would say it went away. I feel like it saved my life in many ways because I was just so depressed. And I was like so thankful for my amazing doula, Mitzi, and her help and her words in those times. And it was amazing. And of course, my husband is a rock. He was always doing everything to help me. But I just think that supplements are so good for you when it comes to um all those emotions afterwards. I do have them right here with me if you feel that you want to buy them. And it's not only for postpartum depression. If you're not pregnant or you're just overall going through depression or just not feeling well, anxiety, all these things, it helps for that as well. So, women, get yourselves some happy, healthy hippie. So, these are the two that I took. So, here's one. That's how it looks. And here is the other one. Oh, wait. There you go. Those two saved my life. And I felt so much better. So, I hope you guys feel good too. Also, I want to talk about I did use a lot of what is it called?
The belt?
The belt.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I just want to say once my belly started getting heavier, I started using those what do you call
The
those?
Velcro belts.
Yes, Velcro.
It's like constricting.
Yeah, Velcro. I know them as fajas, but it was like a Velcro. So I put it on and it just helped tighten it up and kind of lift it a little bit. And it felt so much better. And once my belly started getting a little heavier, I also switched to this one that had like, it looked like a belt up here and then it Velcroed around. And that one kind of lifted it up. So those two were definitely amazing. Also, compression socks. Those help out a lot because my feet were swollen and purple. Those were great. Also, I had arthritis while pregnant, and at least that's what I developed. And I would sleep with hand wrists, and I would sleep with my high knee socks, and then the the Velcro. I looked like a whole superwoman at nighttime. I was like, baby, I'm ready. Do you want me or not? And yeah, it was crazy. So definitely get Velcros, fajas for the weight. And once I gave birth, right away I put the faja on to compress all that swelling and help it go down. And I did wear that for about, I would say, 2 weeks, and it made a big difference on my stomach. Also, to feel like something was like tightening me, tightening me, and my belly felt really, really good. So I know some people can't sleep with it, but I was able to sleep with it, and the Velcro I had was comfortable, so it worked for me. So yeah, that was the experience that I had. Didn't feel anything giving birth, and she did tear me because she had a big ass head. And yeah, don't get pregnant. Don't have a baby. No, I'm just kidding. It's a beautiful experience. It really is. And thank you for listening, and toodles till next time.